Hi again, my name is Brandon Henley and I'm the Director of Music at St. Francis. The last time I spoke with you all was during the Easter season, just before Good Shepherd Sunday. A lot has changed since then. We've gone from no public masses to our first very successful and exciting outdoor masses, and back to indoor masses, although those are looking a little bit different than before. While the return to public mass has been exciting and long awaited, it comes with an array of changes itself. Primarily, the difference in music due to the restrictions on congregational singing during this time. Today, I wanted to speak to you a little bit about virtual music ministry and what the music ministries of St. Francis and St. Louis are doing to keep parishioners and music ministry volunteers engaged during this time. First, we continue to offer weekend virtual masses. These include all of the music that you would typically hear or that you typically heard before the COVID-19 pandemic. All of the sung responses, hymns, mass parts, and the song. So if you're really missing that, I encourage you to check it out. It comes with a worship aid where you can sing along with the Mass. Even if you're attending the in-person masses, which are wonderful, I encourage you to occasionally check out the virtual masses as well if you're really missing all of that music that you would typically hear. The music ministries of St. Louis and St. Francis have been alternating to provide music for these virtual masses. And while I realize that the St. Francis parishioners know this person very well, the St. Louis parishioners may not realize who the cantor is when Colleen Eberhard is not the one on camera singing. So I wanted to take a moment, especially for the St. Louis parishioners, to introduce our vocal music director at St. Francis. Her name is Rebecca Vanover. She's going to speak to you for just a little while about her role at St. Francis, and she's going to speak with you about what she does outside of church and what we've been doing during this time.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Vanover, and I am the vocal music director at St. Francis. I've been with the parish now just over a year, almost a year and a half, and I really enjoy being a part of this vibrant community. I work with our adult choir, with our youth cantors, and with the Assisi Youth Music Ministry. I also work in Howard County as a choral director at Centennial High School. It has been a real honor throughout this time of quarantine and distancing to bring you our Joyful Noise music videos and to work with my colleague, Brandon Henley, on making sure that we keep you connected and engaged in singing from home. We look forward to seeing you at Mass as our distancing allows, and we hope that you continue to stay safe and healthy.
So I hope especially for our St. Louis parishioners, you're now able to put a name to a face when you see Rebecca cantoring the virtual masses every other week. The next thing I want to talk to you about is virtual choir. And I hope you'll stay all the way until the end of this video to see a completed virtual choir project that the St. Francis Music Ministry has put together. We have all seen the videos and heard the recordings of those choirs singing together during quarantine these last few months. You may be wondering, how on earth are they doing that? How are they putting that all together to sound like a normal choir? So I'm going to take a few moments today just to talk briefly and to show you a little bit about how that works. So it takes a great deal of work from both our directors and our music ministry volunteers. So let's take a look. So in order to put a virtual choir together, the first thing we do is make something called a practice recording track that our members can practice along with and record along with so that we're all singing at the same time. And this is kind of what that sounds like when we make a practice recording track. So as you can hear, there's a steady beat going as well as a piano going with all of the vocal parts. Then our members would record their own vocal parts by themselves without any other sounds happening. They would wear headphones so that they could hear the practice tracks, but the recording would only be their voice. So for instance, This is our vocal director Becca, recording the soprano part. This is what someone would send in.
Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit.
So once we receive a couple of those tracks, we can start to stack them on top of each other and add them to the practice track that we sent out using software. The software I use is called GarageBand. So here we have the soprano part that Becca made, as well as the alto part. As you can see, there are sound waves here, so I can easily move this around to line it up. And then I also listen carefully to it to see if it sounds together. So here's what that sounds like together.
Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit.
And if I weren't careful, it would sound like this. So let's move this track back a little bit.
Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit.
So as you can hear, they're not together. So it does take a good amount of work to line all of those up. Not to mention, it's very nerve-wracking for our choir members to record themselves all alone and listen back to their voices and send it to us. It takes a lot of confidence. It's a big risk to take, and we're super proud of them for doing it and putting that all together. The next thing I'm going to show you is a bunch of tracks lined up to make a virtual choir recording. So stay tuned. So as promised, this is what a completed project looks like in GarageBand with all of these vocal tracks here that have been very carefully lined up so that when we press play, they all sound together like they're singing in a choir. So those are the basics of what it takes to put together a virtual choir recording. And again, we thank our music ministry volunteers that have and will continue to participate in these kinds of projects as needed. Their work is so appreciated. I hope you stay tuned to the end of the video to hear a completed project that the St. Francis Music Ministry put together. Virtual choir is something that both the music ministries of St. Louis and St. Francis have worked on and will continue to utilize and refine as we progress through the COVID-19 restrictions on singing together in a choir. Our hope is that this will continue to build a sense of community within our music ministry and continue to bring beautiful music to you for Mass, whether through recording, through virtual Mass, to continue to show you that music is such an important part of our liturgies each week. So, I leave you today with a completed project that the St. Francis Music Ministry put together for Pentecost. I hope you enjoy the Spirit of Christ and some pictures around St. Francis. Have a wonderful day and week ahead.
Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit, Spirit of the risen Christ, sent as promised to his church, make of us through gospel light one new body o'er the earth. Holy Spirit, breath of life, blow through us for Father's household. Spirit of the risen Christ, do through us the things you would. Spirit of the loving Christ, promised comforter and friend, help us feel another's plight, help us comfort, stoop and bend. Holy Spirit, breath of life, blow through us for others' good. Spirit of the loving Christ, do through us the things to you. Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit, Spirit of the risen Christ, Spirit of the giving Christ, source of all the gifts we share, help us shine with Jesus' light as we teach and serve and care.